Oh.
For those of you tuning in, you were seeing a prop that we stopped, so Mike can go grab the prop.
I mean, this is kind of, I didn't know that something that was just getting started could already break.
It's oil specific, and people have pointed that out. Hey, Apple makes 20 billion or more a year in California.
We are live. Thank you very much for joining us for this energy facts chats with me, JP Warren, and we got Mike Umbro and your office, my crib.
Good morning. Yeah, I'm here.
I am recording this in why am I saying San Diego? I'm recording this from Denver, Colorado, and I think a great way to get this kicked off. We obviously, again, for those that are just tuning in, Mike and I have kind of changed direction. We're going to be doing kind of the majority of most days. We're going to be trying to do these most mornings, kind of go over the energy headlines, discuss energy realities and energy expectations, and bridge that gap. And you can find this on YouTube. Head over to our YouTube channel, Energy Facts Chats. Subscribe to that. That way you get the alerts whenever we do go live. We're enjoying these discussions. We hope you are too. And usually LinkedIn is not always the best place to find out, especially kind of catch up on previous conversations too. And I think, Mike, you and I discussed, it's kind of cool that even though it's energy headlines, it does kind of come back to the common themes that you and I are discussing on Energy Facts Chats on kind of what these energy policies and decisions are made and kind of how it affects kind of the everyday consumer, how it affects the environment, what it really means. So be sure to go over YouTube. I'm really pushing that just so everyone kind of gets the updates and kind of continue to kind of participate in these energy facts chats, and so you can kind of take that to wherever you hang out on your day. So I want to say thanks again for everyone tuning in. But Mike, since I am in Denver, Colorado, and I always wake up and I live, breathe, and
in your bedroom,
eat energy. I'm going to start off with kind of taking kind of a brief little tour on kind of what's been going on in the real quick though. We're going to do real brief on kind of the snapshot of what's going on the electricity generation realm, if you will. Let's start over on the East Coast, where our buddy Ryan Walker and all my high school friends are. Okay, let's start over the New England. Can you see this? What's going on right now?
I can see it. Absolutely. Your resource mix chart.
Yeah, we got a resource mix chart. So we got this right now. Okay. So at 11 a.m., we have natural gas carrying the load at 54%. And I think I'm reading this correct. If I'm not, just go. So you have natural gas all the way up here. And this is actually, for those that don't know, this kind of is one of the things that kind of turned me on to these energy fact chats conversations, just because I had no idea. And I just learning more about this and what generates electricity is kind of cool. So up in New England right now, okay. And I actually saw that New York, is kind of pulling away from fossil fuels. They want to whatever, New York University, kind of the student environmentalist, kind of pushed, pressured the bodies to kind of get away from natural gas or fossil fuels, which is interesting because as you can see, natural gas is carrying the load on their generation, electricity generation. And anyone can go check this out. You can kind of go back a couple of days, get 5-year thing. Let's take another look on what's going on. How about that? Let's
you gonna go somewhere else on us?
Hey,
jump around the country.
Buckle up, buddy.
Okay, right, so you got 54% natural gas on the East Coast.
All right,
where are we going next?
We're going to Texas, buddy.
Texas.
Look at this fuel mix right here. All right.
Yep.
I probably ruined it. Did I ruin it?
No, you're good. You got solar 11%, wind 2%. You got natural gas 58%, coal 20%, nuclear 9%.
And for the record, I want to kind of give a shout out to Texas is very ahead when it comes to the renewable space, when it comes to wind and when it comes to solar and all that stuff. But you can still see here that natty gas is carrying it's the workhorse. It's the workhorse in New England. It's the workhorse in Texas. And I wish I had the Colorado one, but I'm just going to kind of read it right now. Colorado right now, currently, what do you think it is? Do we have any predictions out there?
70% fossil fuels.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I mean,
one thing I was looking at when
Western area power is about majority coal right now, and if I think there's just so many different ones. Public service company of whatever. You got gas leading the way, and I don't know if you can see it. Gas is down here, and you have solar up there. This, I mean, kind of breaks apart where I'm at, but I thought it was interesting as well. And now we're gonna go to California, where you're at, buddy boy. Before we
All
get into the
right, let's
news,
check it out.
before we get
Okay.
into the news,
Check it out.
Stop. Okay, stop screen. Present. Share screen. I think there's probably an easier way to do this, but whatever. We'll figure it out. All right, you got this now?
Yep. Solar's ramping. That's typical.
Yep. But how was it yesterday?
Well, where the solar assets are located, it's pretty much always sunny in the Central Valley this time of year. So
Okay,
it was probably good.
All through the evening, Natty Gas was kind of carrying the load, obviously,
Absolutely,
because the sun's sleeping, and then once the
Right.
sun wakes up, you kind of see it kind of take off and all that stuff, which is great to see. And batteries, I mean, obviously the battery is just kind of, and here's the battery all the way down here. So it's kind of pulling from the grid, adding, pulling back in. Okay, so that's kind of what I want to share. That's what I want to start out with. Okay, but now, Mike, we're here to bring you the news.
No, that's fine. I think it's actually good that you start out that way. I didn't share this with you, but our mutual friend now, Ryan Walker, sent me a committee hearing on energy, climate, and grid subcommittee, and it was about keeping the lights on, enhancing reliability and efficiency to power American homes. So I've been listening to that for the past 2 hours. It's still going on right now back in DC, but this committee is really focused on identifying a few themes, and those being the Department of Energy and other agencies are pushing efficiency standards on appliances.
Yep.
They're also pushing efficiency standards on transformers, which are in short supply. So we've talked a lot about hardening the grid and maintaining the grid we have, but they're even ramping up.
It seems like there's more that meets the eye, though.
Oh, there is a lot that more than meets the eye, because what a lot of the subcommittee is talking about as they're interviewing witnesses is, hey, look, we're setting these standards on clean power generation, adding renewables, which happen to be intermittent. And your chart on ERCOT right now shows that installed wind capacity is 25,000 megawatts. I think I saw you there, and it was firing at a fraction of that right now. And so what the policymakers were saying to the witnesses is, look, we're increasing the efficiency standards on appliances on the grid. We're adding renewables and sources that are not considered baseload. They're not always available to us. And we are lacking transmission. So they're kind of wrapping their heads around all these swirling issues and saying, hey, we need a resilient grid. We need an affordable grid. And so to kind of tie all this together, they cited that national utility rates are up 30% in the last 4 or 5 years. California's rates have doubled over that time. And one of the representatives from Arizona, I thought, made a very good point, subtle point, but she said, look, we have a diverse set of sources of power generation sources coming into Arizona, and that's what makes us resilient. And she quotes 42% natural gas, 29% nuclear, 12% coal, 10% solar, 5% hydroelectric. And she was touting that as a balanced diet, if you will, as you talk about energy calories. So a lot going on right now in the world of electricity, keeping the lights on, keeping things reliable and affordable for folks. So that's just kind of a summary on all the grid happenings. I guess to segue into headlines that we've been talking about, we talked about California changing their subsidies for low-income drivers to adopt EVs. Go ahead.
Nothing.
Oh, you got it. So the one of the headlines today that you got up there, Californians are spending $38 million in rebates for EV chargers now. So now Californians are sponsoring the development and build out of EV chargers right now in disadvantaged communities, which, by the way, have not been buying EVs. And so a lot of the discussion in this particular article in San Diego, where they're spending $38 million, was, look, people in these communities, they don't even have these EVs to begin with. So it's kind of the chicken and the egg is being teased out here in the.
Well, you know what's interesting? You know what's very interesting about that, Mike? I think that's a great point. I was actually going to read a little kind of quote, kind of the mindset behind this decision. Okay. Evan Wright, the director of EV infrastructure programs and operations for the Center for Sustainable Energy, says something like this. Okay, I'm going to summarize the first part and kind of go to the chicken and the egg. He says, when surveys are put out for people, why don't people buy electric vehicles? One of the barriers is, well, there's not enough charging stations in my area.
Right.
Or the EVs are too expensive. It's a chicken or egg discussion. We believe that if you build it, they will come. So,
wow, we didn't plan that. Nice.
That is a lot of money going towards if you build it, they will come. I know that, me personally, that there have been a lot of chargers, kind of where I live in Houston, whether it's at, shopping, these shopping centers, whether it's Whole Foods, wherever, something like that. There's EV chargers there. I don't think it's a question. To me, this is my outlook personally. I think that's a bold statement. If someone's saying, hey, give me 38 million, because if we build it, then people will go buy the cars. I mean, that's right. I think that's a bold reach of assumptions to assume that just because something's not built. So it's kind of hope. It's building something in hopes of to create a demand.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And that was a lot of this committee hearing that I was listening to in DC. A lot of the same conversations of, hey, look, we've got to make sure things are affordable, reliable, and available today. We understand that's not to say we shouldn't be striving towards a cleaner future, a less carbon intense future, but we've got to make sure we protect the consumer today. And what's happening in the numbers, whether it's the cost of an EV or an appliance or utility rates, they're going up. And that's not gonna be a sustainable pathway for the people broadly in this country. So one thing, I guess interesting, I'm always fascinated by, as we're talking about transportation, by the association of driverless vehicles with, you got something?
No, I just want to kind of, I love, first off, you're getting really good at this. Like, your segues are so smooth. I love it. But I just think, I mean, there's some, if you read the San Diego Union Tribune, there's just so many things here, like not even as an engineer person, but kind of as someone that has an undergrad in marketing. Okay. It's just, you read it and it's very like, you're literally kind of just like, it's marketing 101. It's economy, it's economics 101. You don't create, it's a very interesting approach to spending money and also the economy and also infrastructure. It's a very, and obviously we can spend a whole segment on this, but I don't really feel like it, but it's a very interesting faux demand spending, making it more difficult for people. It's a very interesting faux approach to have a demand for EVs, which is, and don't get me wrong, again, Mike and I are not knocking EVs. I think they're cool as hell, but at the same time, is on a realistic 30,000 point of view, creating an artificial demand isn't really sustainable without those tax credits, without those subsidies, without all that fun stuff. So anyway, so let's move on that segue to the driverless truck.
Yeah. I'll take your faux and add a mo. I think it's FOMO, that you kind of create this fear of missing out on the transition in disadvantaged communities. Oh, now you need to have an electric vehicle, or now you need to have a driverless vehicle. And that was one bill that I'm shocked that it's Newsom is going to veto it, they say, because this headline was about
give us background.
So this is what I'm always fascinated by, why there is this association between electric vehicles and this transition and driverless vehicles. Why do we need to eliminate the driver from it? Just sounds like it's totally unsafe. It's too new. You see these driverless taxis going around San Francisco causing traffic jams. You've got homeless and drug addicted people bashing them with hammers. There's nobody driving these things. They're vandalizing these vehicles. And now there's a bill on Governor Newsom's desk for driverless trucks. And the legislation calls for a human behind the wheel for at least 5 years. So this bill is saying we need a person to be driving this electric big rig, not just a vehicle. Now we're talking heavy hauling big rigs. We want to have someone operating it. We don't want this to just be a computerized big rig driving around our streets. And the governor is expected to veto it because he fears that it would stifle innovation. So this is one of those issues that I think we'll see evolve from a safety perspective. Obviously, us in the energy world, we're always talking safety first. It just blows my mind that we think we're at the point where we don't need a driver in the big rig. We'll just
another thing is, you talk about, jobs, they took our jobs. You talk about all that stuff. And I saw that article and you started kind of perusing down it a little bit. And it's the same concept when it comes to, like whenever you dry up a sector, whether it's, oil and gas workers, whether it's this workers, whether it's drivers and all this stuff, there's this like the concept is, oh, well, just go code, or, oh, there's gonna be jobs at the hub stations wherever there will be traffic. It's not a full drawn out thought, which a lot of these decisions are made. A lot of these mandates, all this stuff isn't really drawn out to kind of the end consumer, how it really will affect families, at the end of the day, or these that have their own companies. So jobs will be created further down the road, probably in these little hubs where you do require people behind the wheel. That's where the job creation, but it still doesn't take away that it's still removing people, still removing jobs, still removing those small independent entrepreneurs, truckers.
Absolutely, 100%.
Well, there'll just be jobs, closer there. There'll be jobs here. Learn how to code. Learn how that. Life doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way.
Right. So now moving on to Ukraine, I saw this in the Wall Street Journal, and this just fascinated me. Cow dung fuels Ukraine's green energy push. So it's just, I mean, I get it. They're saying that they can take biomass, cow poop, and transition and transfer that as green renewable natural gas, which I think they say in here can power up to a third of Ukraine's economy, which begs the question to me, well, how much power and natural gas are they using when they're in the middle of this war? I can't imagine that it's at its normal usage pre-war or non-war time. But they're also kind of alluding to the fact that this can be something for Europe to hang its hat on, and that, somehow this kind of a cow dung, I don't know, it's just kind of an example of one of those feel-good stories, maybe.
So
I don't know.
I think, but here's the deal, though. Look, if we can take cow poop, and kind of turn it to kind of, I think that shit's cool. Like, pun intended. But I think that's really, and by the way, I'm going to say this, Mike, the whole transformer, it's more than meets the eye. You didn't catch that, but that came out earlier. But anyway, but I think I actually read that article, and like, regardless, like, oh, this green push, green this and that, like, I think that sounded actually pretty interesting. Like, I think that sounds pretty on that front. I was pretty impressed by that. I kind of don't, I'm not sure about this, but I would assume, and again, I don't want to assume, whatever. I'm not sure people are kind of walking around, with being invaded, being like, man, we really got to do this green push, guys. We really need to be doing more with this green push. But actually, I was on the flight here yesterday, and I was talking to some guy who's 27 years in the Marines. Now he does his own staffing company in the aviation side. And I was kind of talking about energy and all that stuff. And we kind of got into the electrification of the military vehicles and all that. And I'm not gonna get it, but the reaction was very like, that's the stupidest beep, 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 beep out there. And like, it was interesting. Like, you can't, the world doesn't operate that way, or we don't get about that.
Right. Yeah. And in places like California, you have green renewable gas credits that operators can receive for this kind of a cow dung to methane or green gas solution. And so these credits, when this happens in California and the Western world, what that does is it raises the price of natural gas on the one hand, because we're giving credits, the taxpayers are giving credits to people to capture the gas. But on the other hand, it incentivizes more cows, and we're told in the climate push, well, we've got to feed them, we've got to water them, they release a lot of methane. Well, now you're incentivizing the herd to grow. So it's just there's a lot of nuance within. So yeah, there's a lot of nuance within that. But hey, maybe it'll work out for Ukraine. Who knows? They need all the help they can get, and if it's cow poop that's going to save them, let it be.
Let it be now.
One of the headlines, I mean, I don't know, it's a headline because the BP CEO quit over past relations with his staff. I was hoping to read something juicy in that one. It really was mystic, past relations. That could mean a lot of things, but Mr. Looney is out after
that is hitting the headlines, and it's I think the reason why that's kind of hitting the headlines on the levels it is probably because I think he stepped in. Obviously, I don't know all the details and all this stuff because on Energy Fact Check,
nobody does. Yeah, it's not in the article.
But he stepped in, and I think during the pandemic time, and kind of talked about kind of reducing, reaching this this emissions goal, doing this and all that stuff. So I think, kind of scaling back from producing oil and all this stuff. However, I think that's probably why it's kind of made with shockwaves. And it kind of talks about kind of how he was kind of like going to be reducing emissions, and that's why kind of him stepping down. It's like, oh, is it going to change the trajectory? Is right. BP going to actually are they going to keep their pledge, or are they going to stay, as an operator not producing oil? So it's just kind of it's whatever.
Well, yeah, and BP has their annual energy report, energy outlook, and I think they suspended that. I think they're no longer doing it, which is pretty sad. Yeah, BP ended 70 years of publishing their statistical review of world energy, which is pretty interesting because Looney came out really hard on the transition BP away from being an oil company, beyond petroleum, I think was the phrase they started using. And then they came back at one point and said, well, oil and gas demand is going to continue to rise through 2050. And then the statistical report, it's like, well, maybe we'll just stop publishing this.
Well, but also, I mean, also you look at it too. It's like, it's kind of one of those things too. It's like the returns they weren't getting the returns that they needed to as a business,
right,
for the renewable space. And that kind of upsets people. It's like, well, they're not going to pledge this. So it's a business. I mean, if they're not getting returns, I mean, it doesn't really make sense to keep on chunking money into something that's not for the shareholders. And,
and they're not the only big oil company to experience that. We talked about Ørsted can't make wind work. Shell can't make carbon offsets work. BP can't make beyond petroleum work.
And then also it's like, they were targeted. They had a laser point, a target on their back, from, everyone, from the White House, the press, on stuff about making record profits. Flash forward, a couple quarters later, their profits are down 70%, and that doesn't get coverage. People don't talk about that too. So, yeah, it's one of those things. It's very easy to villainize when the stats and data align, and it's whatever. So,
and I guess I got one final one in the Wall Street Journal. We've talked about this the past 3 days, but California legislature passes their sweeping emissions bill, which does include, according to this article, scope 3 emissions. So scope 1, 2, and 3. That's supply chains. So what are we going to see from my big interest is what are we going to see out of the port complex of Los Angeles and Long Beach, which is known to be the single largest stationary source of pollution in Southern California. Are we going to start monitoring this? Are we going to take it all the way back to China, where all these products are coming in from? That could be a big deal.
Let me ask you a question. So if it is passed, do you know that already? Do you know if it's
so they've got, I think Governor Newsom has until October 14th to sign it or veto it, or he can take no action, which basically it becomes law. So it becomes law if he signs it. It becomes law if he takes no action. It is vetoed, obviously, if he vetoes it by October 14th.
Daryl's in the house. Scope 3 is
Daryl's in the house. My buddy George, I think, was trying to listen in on comments, or maybe he was talking about the DC thing. But our comments are on because Daryl is here, baby.
Well,
Daryl is here for his morning fact.
And then if you're tuning in from YouTube, try to chime in and see if that works. Yeah. But the thing is, I'm curious about this. Okay, so you have this coming out. You can kind of see the mission of the supply chain and all that stuff. So that sounds very familiar to that idea of having the environmental monitoring of where we import our oil, where we import
Right.
our foreign
That
source
they
of oil.
would not pass in
So
California.
interesting.
Right.
Interesting. I'm just
Right.
hanging that out there. That's an
Right. Right.
interesting observation.
Right, right. Well, and it's similar to why they don't specifically call out the port of Los Angeles and Long Beach, which is dominated by union labor, and specifically saying you can go to the South Coast Air Quality Management District and see on their landing page for quote unquote clean port exactly what I tell you, that the port emits more pollution than all 6 million vehicles in registered in Southern California. So we know certain things about who's a major emitter and who's not. But to your point about, well, why didn't they pass the deal that was going to track foreign oil emissions? Why didn't they pass that? And I think it's because that goes against the narrative of if we phase it out in the state of California, it just goes away. You can't pick and choose where you want to report the pollution.
But that's
And
exactly
so
what,
hopefully
what's happening,
yeah,
though. Mike, that's
it
exactly what's
is.
happening.
It's exactly what's happening. It's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
So we'll just keep watching it.
So again, it's very difficult to have these realistic energy conversations if you're allowing this on this side, but you're not allowing this on this side. Or you're looking at this, you're monitoring this, but you're not monitoring. You're letting this kind of go through the thing. So that's kind of the whole point of these energy fact checks, to bring those energy realities, kind of what's really happening to you. So that's kind of all I got. I'm ready to take this to the comments. I see Daryl popping. Bob, if you're tuning in, buddy, I hope you're doing good. It's been a minute, Bob.
I haven't seen him on his walks. I gotta find him.
You know what? Bob's probably catching up all previous conversations we had on our energy facts chat. So all right, let's take it to the streets. We got Daryl kind of teaching us something right here. Scope 1 is supplier, Scope 2 is your own, and Scope 3 is your consumers. We got George tuning in. Great show. George, thank you tuning in on YouTube, which I love. Go ahead, share that, George. Share the love. Share the energy.
George is a good dude. Another energy leader in California, working with General Production Service, and they do a lot of good work. Hire a lot of people.
And Daryl says need to get Robert Bryce, Doug Sheridan, David Blackman, and Doug Hausman on for this. I'm down for. Look, we're down for these.
Come on.
I'm down for that. Mike, honestly, this is kind of something I can sidebar. I like the energy headlines, but also I wouldn't mind kind of doing energy, kind of like a little wrap up or like a like finger on the pulse. Like, hey, look, let's pause on the headlines. Let's talk about let's kind of bring everything back, because that's the thing. It's like, even though the headlines pop up, it just helps evolve the conversations, evolve stories that news. Although it pops up, it doesn't change the story.
Right. And it'd be fun to have a guest once a week or whatever we do, but it'd also be fun to have just a common, a barista at a coffee shop, not one of these energy experts, but ask them, because we kind of do that informal, just go for it type of vibe. And maybe we can find someone, hey, how are these? Do you even look at these things? Do you know how how's this impacting your pocketbook?
I dig it. So we have Daryl say 1,500 coal-fired plants on schedule to be built in China this year. Their emissions are 4 times ours. Look at what's going on in India. Look what's going on in any BRICS nation when it comes to energy. I see that they are investing in their energy infrastructure for today and for tomorrow, actually. And we're not seeing that over here.
That was a point in the Energy Committee hearing today, that other countries are building more transmission lines than the United States. And so that was a point. But hey, hopefully on China's coal plants, all those products coming through the port now in California, they should be monitoring and doing a full audit on the supply chain emissions, right? So maybe that starts to be a thing.
Well, I would love to see the whole, after that happens, then the whole, once they get that information, then it's like, okay, well, now what?
Right.
Like, okay, now what? We've been telling these people, the consumers, this thing for so long. So, all right, the discussion is on energy. We need more as it does the world. How do we get it into an affordable, sustainable, and available? Okay, well, that's we're working on that. We're working on that. So, hey, obviously, Daryl, George, everyone else tuning in, thank you so much. And again, we will be doing a couple more LinkedIn reminders that we'll be going live After probably next week, we're just going to be going live on LinkedIn. But the best way to do this, head over to YouTube, check that out, subscribe there, spread the love, and we're going to get more organized with this. We want to kind of continue to get this out there. So thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all be good. Y'all talk energy. And if you're digging this, share it, like it, subscribe it, talk about it, tag it, all that fun stuff. And here you go.
For those of you tuning in, you were seeing a prop that we stopped, so Mike can go grab the prop.
I mean, this is kind of, I didn't know that something that was just getting started could already break.
It's oil specific, and people have pointed that out. Hey, Apple makes